If you're moving to Atlanta, there are some bizarre stories about Atlanta that really kind of makes Atlanta, Atlanta.
It was horrible! You couldn't imagine such a storm!
So I'm going to talk about some of those things that have happened in the last 10 or so years. I've lived here for about 12 years now, so I'm just going to talk about things that I've experienced. And if you've lived here longer and you can think of stuff that's happened, you know, in the 70s, 80s, 90s, whatever that is that really strikes a chord with you, let us know in that comments box below. This is a little bit more of a fun video. You know, I talk a lot about neighborhoods, what it's like to live in neighborhoods, but now I just want to talk about some things that have happened in Atlanta, so you know about them. And if you're out with friends or locals and they start making references to these things, you'll be in the know so you can thank me later. I've got 4 different stories I can share with you about just random events that have happened here in Atlanta, and sometimes you just shake your head and be like, if it's going to happen somewhere, it's going to happen here in Atlanta of all places. By the way, side note, if you want to know kind of random bizarre stuff that happens in Atlanta on a daily basis, go to Instagram at ATL Scoop and you can definitely see highlights of things that have gone on and you just think, is this real? But if you want more of a lighter option, go check me out on my Instagram page. You can follow me there, and I kind of post stuff that's around town, places I like to go and eat, that kind of thing, and you can contact me there. I'd love for you to follow me. But okay, before I get into the 4 things, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Molly, and welcome to my channel. If you are new or returning and you want to know everything there is to know about living in the Atlanta area, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can follow along and give this video a like. It really does help me out. But if you are thinking about making a move to the Atlanta area and you need help with your home search, shoot me a text, give me a call, send me an email. I'd love to talk with you. We can have a simple conversation of places that you're interested in. I can help you find a place that fits your lifestyle and your budget. So, been hearing a lot from you guys on your upcoming moves, and I can't wait to help more of you buy that perfect home. So, okay, with that said, let's get into the list. Starting with number 4, that would be the I-85 bridge collapse. This happened on March 30th, 2017. If you lived here, you remember turning on the news, or maybe you were stuck in that traffic. If you were, let me know in the comments. But it was around 6 o'clock-ish, and on the news, all of a sudden there was this big eruption of flames on I-85 around the overpass of I-85 and Piedmont Road. So there's like 250,000 cars that cross this bridge every day on a daily basis, which I thought was quite surprising. But yeah, it was caught on fire. And then around 7 o'clock, just a little after that, the bridge completely collapsed. So there was a 92-foot gaping hole on I-85. Like, I mean, the roads were shut down. Luckily, nobody was hurt. You know, this is a high traffic time during the rush hour. Nobody got hurt, so that is the great news. But then, you know, reality sunk in that now we have this gaping hole and people cannot travel on I-85 northbound or southbound. It was, you know, they had to repair a lot of this bridge. So the reality sunk in, and literally MARTA, the MARTA line, saw a 25% increase spike in riders the very next day. So one important thing that, you know, we can take away from this is that, you know, MARTA came to the rescue for a lot of people that were commuting into town for work. So, you know, I kind of argue, you know, there's a lot of argument and debate about expanding the MARTA lines into some of the suburbs, Gwinnett County, Cobb County, and they always shoot it down. And one of those reasons, if you're not from here, you know, I think a lot of people fear that there's going to be more crime in their area if the MARTA line is expanded. I beg to differ, but that's a whole different video. But yeah, MARTA came to the rescue for that, and a lot of commuters, now they had to circumnavigate and drive through all these neighborhoods to get around it because it was completely closed off. So it was a nightmare for people commuting into the city for work. It made their commutes much, much longer. I mean, it was an ordeal. Luckily, I never had to deal with that traffic every day. I kind of stayed in my bubble, so it didn't impact me as well. But I will say, one day I was out running on Ponce de Leon on a Saturday morning, and this van pulled up to me and rolled down their window and was like, "Hey, how do I get to Highway 400?" And I was like, Highway 400 is nowhere near Ponce de Leon. What are you doing out here? But they obviously had gotten circumnavigated and were not from Atlanta and got really confused. So as you can imagine, traffic was atrocious. So the bridge came down at the end of March, and they were projecting that it probably wouldn't get built and reopen until mid-June, which, you know, it doesn't sound like that much time, but when you are living in this traffic nightmare every day, that's a long time. What happened was the city and the mayor, they created this incentive program for the contractor that was rebuilding the bridge that, you know, if they got the bridge done sooner, they could get up to $3.1 million in bonus incentives. So magically, I mean, money speaks volumes. I mean, they worked 24 hours a day building on this bridge, but instead of getting done in the middle of June, they finished and the bridge was reopened by May 12th. Okay, I know what you're thinking. You're wondering, well, how did the bridge get set on fire anyway? Well, there were basically 3 homeless people underneath that bridge. One of them set a sofa cushion on fire, and the city at the time was storing some building materials under that bridge in a kind of a locked, fenced in area, but they were flammable. So it was polyethylene and fiberglass tubing. So that cushion somehow caught that building material on fire, and that just created the whole snowball effect of the huge collapse of the bridge. So, there was rumors that they were smoking crack under the bridge. Anyway, I think one of the great stories that came out of this, while it's not cool to be burning down bridges, but the main guy that the media had pinpointed as the lead arsonist, he went through an 18-month rehabilitation process for mental health and drugs, and his arson charges got dropped, and he's actually has a job now. So I'm really glad to see that he has turned his life around in so many different ways. So that's one good story out of this. But I guess the lesson learned here is, and the city has learned this lesson, is to not store any kind of building materials underneath bridges any longer. Number 3 on my list is Mageddon. Now, this is a more recent event that happened. In fact, it happened in December of 2022. Like most of the United States, Atlanta was plagued with these freezing temperatures that were prolonged. And unlike you guys that live up in the north, I mean, I grew up in Kansas, and when I moved here, I was like, wow, things just aren't built the same as they are in Kansas or up north. The pipes are just not insulated here. I mean, we don't get these continued freezing temps for long periods of time. Now, I've lived here about 12 years now, and I can remember, I feel like it's every 5 years we get these prolonged freezing temperatures. And when that happens, things get messy. So what happened, and literally a day before Christmas, we started getting pipes bursting everywhere, and especially in apartment complexes, businesses, high rises, like anything with water sprinklers, those just aren't insulated. And so everyone's pipes started bursting in all of these apartment complexes, condo buildings, and causing flooding everywhere. So all of the plumbers were getting thousands and thousands of calls to come fix these leaks, and it was quite a scene. Again, I watched a bunch of this on ATL Scoops, of clip after clip of people wading through water in their apartment or their condo or in a fancy business office location. Even at the airport, I remember they had a pipe burst, and yeah, it was just a complete mess. And they call this Mageddon. The key lesson from this is that, you know, especially if you have a single family home or a townhome, you probably have a little bit more control, but, you know, let your faucets drip a little bit when you get those freezing temps. Wrap your pipes, especially your spigots, on the exterior. There's things you can buy to cover them up and insulate them. But if you don't, you could also just wrap some towels and put a Ziploc bag over it. That's what I had to do, because Home Depot, they sold out of all of those fancy little spigot covers. If you're in an apartment or a condo complex, you probably have a little bit less control. And I know there's some people that are still struggling with their apartment complex, trying to get repairs done. And if you're one of those people, let me know. Let me know how long it took you to get all of your repairs done. But I know, you know, I'm recording this in March, and I saw something on the news just a couple of weeks ago that people are still waiting for them to come and make repairs for the walls that got damaged in their apartment complex. So in any case, be prepared, do everything you can to wrap your pipes, insulate, insulate, insulate. Number 2 on my list is Snowmageddon. Some people call it snow apocalypse, snow jam. This happened January 28th of 2014. So we're coming up almost on the 10-year anniversary. If you were stuck in this traffic, you probably want to forget about it. Some of you can probably look back and laugh. It was around 12:30 that day, and there was some weather that was coming in. You know, I was up in Buckhead at the time, and I thought, no big deal. It's a tiny little bit of snow. In total, we got 2 to 3 inches of snow, which I thought was like no big deal. And again, if you Northerners saw this, you were laughing at us like, those Southerners are so wimpy when it's snow out. I mean, you guys will go to school when there's 2 feet of snow on the ground and you don't even bat an eyelash. But the problem here in Georgia and Atlanta is we're just not equipped for any kind of weather. We didn't have enough salt on the ground. We couldn't service the road. So what happened is that snow came in, it turned to slush, and then it started to freeze. And people on the interstates got stuck. They were slipping and sliding. 18-wheelers couldn't move. And you know, Atlanta is not a flat city. There's some hills. And so even on some of the neighborhood streets, you couldn't get over that hill to your house. So you heard just dozens and dozens of stories of people stranded. I shouldn't even say dozens, I'd say like hundreds of stories of people stranded in their cars overnight in the cold, and they couldn't get anywhere. A lot of people abandoned their cars and walked to a store that would open up, like Home Depot was opening up their stores to let people just kind of sit in the aisles and wait this out until they could get back to their car and move it. I found some stats from the AJC, and let me read these to you because I think it'll explain a lot. So here's some numbers for you. It took 6 hours to drive 10 miles. It took 18 hours to return to normal. There were 500 cars that were towed by one towing car service, and there were 1,200 accidents that were reported. So that kind of gives you an idea of just kind of how bad this was. And, you know, it was scary for some people that, you know, they were trying to go pick up their kids from school and they couldn't get to them because they were stuck in traffic. So they, you know, kids were stuck on school buses, at schools, away from their parents. So there were people that needed medicine and had elderly people in their car and infants in their cold car, couldn't go anywhere. So that was, you know, at the time it was a very scary event. We heard some great stories that came out of this, like neighbors making sandwiches and walking them to give them to people stranded in their cars. So there were a lot of great stories that came out of this, but during the time it was not it was not a laughing matter. But now we can laugh about it. In fact, like SNL, they made a pretty funny skit about it. I'll show you a quick slide on that.
Tell us about the storm.
Oh, Cethery. It was horrible. You couldn't imagine such a storm. Lord, I will never forget when I saw those first flakes of devil's dandruff.
It was only 2 inches.
Well, this is the South, Cethery. We are not equipped to deal with snow.
So what happened next?
Well, sir, I climbed into my white Escalade. And I went to the safest place I could think of, the interstate.
So yeah, that's a pretty funny one. We can laugh about, you know, how Atlanta closed down from just 2 inches of snow. I mean, who would think it? But now the lessons we've learned from that is that, you know, we're not going to take any chances. If we hear any kind of weather coming in, things are going to get canceled. So I don't know how many times now I've seen school canceled on the threat of cold weather, maybe a chance of a snowflake, and then nothing really actually happens. And then you think, why did we cancel school for this? But it's all because of this situation that happened in 2014 with the amount of traffic that got stuck and the chaos that happened. Atlanta's not taking chances on weather. And yeah, you Northerners, you can laugh all you want. And finally, number 1 on my list, this one still makes me laugh to this day. And if you are a local here in Atlanta, you know what I'm talking about, the Georgia Dome implosion. Oh my gosh, the video of this went viral on all of the social platforms. This is much more of a lighthearted event, But November 20th of 2017, they were getting ready to implode the old Georgia Dome because the new Mercedes-Benz Stadium had been built. So a lot of people went out to watch this implosion, and there was a cameraman from the Weather Channel who had set up a feed to show this implosion, and he had been filming for like 40 minutes already, and leading right up to the point of where the Georgia Dome was getting imploded and, you know, all of it's crumbling down. A MARTA bus pulls up right in front of his camera, watches it tumble down, and then drives off after it's all said and done. And also the commentary of the cameraman, it just makes you laugh. So before I say any more, let me share with you the video because it's such a good one.
3, 2, 1. Come on, boss, get out of the way. Boss. Get out of the way, boss! Are you... What the... Man, lady!
Doesn't that make you giggle? I mean, the number of memes that came out after that and people making fun of it and just saying, oh, MARTA. I mean, it was hilarious. And every time I watch it to this day, like I said, I laugh so hard. I was even showing a home not too long ago and I had to take a picture of it. I'll put the picture right here so you can see it. But now they sell framed art of this MARTA event, and people, oh my gosh, I need to get my hands on one of these printed copies because it's so hilarious. So I guess the lesson learned on this event is that if you're going to watch some kind of event here in the Atlanta area, make sure you get front row seats. All right, so that is my list of things that have happened here in the Atlanta area. I hope you've gotten a few chuckles out of this. I mean, you can't make this stuff up, and it's part of Atlanta culture here. So now you are in the know. So if you're out walking with some new friends and they've been here for years and they mention this stuff, now you're up to speed on what has happened. Like I said, if you are watching this and you're here in Atlanta and you have another memory that pops up, let us know. I would love to see what those comments are. I hope this was a fun one for you to watch. It certainly brought some chuckles to my face, just talking about the Atlanta weather and how pathetic we are about it. And yeah, MARTA gets me every time. Anyway, that's it for today. Until next time, you guys, I'll see you around the neighborhood.